One of the 25 things that Marcelo talked about in his article, by the way, was how Colorado will replace two huge stars in Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter in Prime's third season as the Buffs head coach. To take a look at the fallout from Colorado's best season since 2016 and what lies ahead, let's welcome in Adam Munster-Tiger of BuffStampede.com. Adam, great to see you, man. As always, we welcome you in. And I just got back from Indy, the NFL Combine, the talk of the town. Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, everywhere you go, that's where the cameras are. I want to ask you just about the legacy that these two have left on this program. We're talking about a team that won 9 games for the first time, like I said, since 9 years ago, almost a decade ago. What have those two meant specifically to this Colorado program this day and age?
Well, there's a hall right by the indoor practice facility at Colorado called Legacy Hall, and that's where they have all the All-American lists and all of the big awards, national awards that have been won by Colorado Buffaloes over the years. They've got to have a major renovation going underway in that hallway with Travis Hunter taking home as many awards as he did. You start with the Heisman Trophy, just the second to win that award in Colorado football history, and the 9 wins, depending where you are, might not be all that impressive, but when you look at where Colorado was just 2 years ago, by far the worst FBS program in the country, to get to that point, it did take a heroic effort by both those guys and other guys, obviously, as well, to get this program back to where it was. Unfortunately, didn't go out the way they wanted to by getting blown out by BYU in the Alamo Bowl, but their legacy is gonna linger around Boulder for forever. I mean, what those two guys were able to accomplish.
Yeah, we talk about legacy, but shoot, production in terms of points, value, and bringing people in, sitting them in the seats. What are the biggest issues ahead of the 2025 season for Colorado, knowing we still have the spring portal window wide open?
In terms of the roster, it's continuing to improve the offensive line and replacing those 4 receivers that are going off to the NFL. But really the biggest issue for this program is not necessarily a position need. It's being more balanced offensively. They passed the ball 64% of the time each of the last 2 seasons. Not surprisingly, given that number, Colorado ranked dead last in the FBS ranks in rushing yards both of those seasons. So it made it a lot easier for opposing defensive coordinators to tee up their guys against Colorado when you didn't have that threat of a really strong run game. So Colorado led the Big 12 in sacks defensively last season with 37, but partly because they weren't balanced offensively, they gave up 39 sacks on offense. So you even talk to offensive linemen, they typically get a lot of mojo and a lot of confidence in the run game. And so at times when other teams were teeing off, especially 2 years ago in 2023, there was a confidence issue there. Not so much this past year, but just not being able to be balanced offensively was the biggest issue with it, that they have to get figured out going forward, because they're going to have a new quarterback. Shedeur Sanders is not going to be behind center, so you're going to have to be more balanced.
Well, speaking of, I want to talk about that quarterback position, right? That seems to be where the conversation is in Boulder. They bring over Kaidon Salter, a very veteran, experienced quarterback from Liberty. Had a big year in 2023, a little bit of a downtick in production last year. And then Julian Lewis, a highly touted quarterback from Carrollton High School in Georgia. Can you give us a little inside look on what to expect this spring as those two battle it out?
Yeah, it should be a really tight competition, because everything we've heard about Julian Lewis since he got on campus is that despite the fact that he should be a junior in high school right now because he reclassified, he is mature beyond his years. He's begging staff to let him get into the facilities late at night to be able to throw to guys. And so he's somebody that's going to push Kaidon Salter, but I think if you gave an edge to one guy going into spring, you'd have to go with the experience that Salter had. Over 8,000 yards during his time at Liberty, was the Group of 5 Player of the Year in 2023, helped the Flames to an undefeated regular season, went back to Liberty last year and kind of surprised some people when he did that. Now he's got 1 year of eligibility left, and he wants to gain that exposure that you can get at Colorado with it being his last year of eligibility. Very, very good in the RPO game, and that's something that would be aiding what I just said was an issue last year of them being more balanced. They did RPO stuff with Shedeur Sanders, but you knew that he was not as much of a threat in there because you didn't want him taking more unnecessary hits. But that could be an area of Caden Salter's game that does allow Colorado to be a little bit more well balanced. But Julian Lewis is a winner. He was 39-4 at Carrollton over 3 years of high school football. That, 2 of those years being his freshman and sophomore year of high school. So again, mature beyond his years physically. Is he mature enough to be a quarterback one in the Big 12? And I think that's something that we'll find out as we get into these spring practices and through the summer. They also have Ryan Staub on scholarship. He started a game for Colorado in their finale of 2023 at Utah. So he's in the mix as well as a scholarship guy. But most expect this competition to come down to Salter and Juju Lewis.
Adam, Smoke and I have been talking about it all day, 2025 realistic expectations for Colorado. We're going to talk about that here in a second, but I want to get your opinion on where is a realistic landing spot, maybe from a win total standpoint for the Buffs in 2025.
Yeah, you guys were talking about parity earlier. That's the theme of the Big 12 these days. And you have to, if you're going to talk about predictions in early March, you got to mention the fact that last year in the preseason media poll, Arizona State was picked last, BYU 13th, Colorado 11th, and Iowa State 6th. Those all 4 finished atop the Big 12 standings with a 7-2 conference mark. So this is a conference where you're going to have teams that way outperform the expectations. Given the amount of talent that they've brought into the program the last 26 months, having a pretty challenging, but I wouldn't call it a daunting schedule. I would say that the floor is probably 6 wins with that ceiling, Colorado being back in contention to play for a conference title game late in the season again, like they were last year. But obviously it's going to be tough. They're replacing Shedeur, Travis, and some other guys, but there has been an influx of talent in this program to the point where this is a program where bowl games are expected now.
Adam Munster, Tiger Man, we appreciate you as always. Appreciate you jumping on with us to talk Colorado football. And for more Adam Munster, Tiger, and everything that you need for Colorado football in recruiting, make sure to check out buffstampede.com. You heard Adam talk about it, the expectations. He said the floor was around 6. I think you and I have been kind of talking about, all right, what does the ceiling look like, whether it's Caden Salter, whether it's Julian Lewis. I kind of want to start with the quarterback conversation first because we've seen a lot of these young guys play, whether it's a former 5-star and Dante Moore at UCLA play early, then he transfers to Oregon. Now he's got the redshirt year. Jackson Arnold played in the bowl game as a freshman. Rocky year last year at Oklahoma. These young guys playing, and Adam alluded to, I mean, Julian Lewis is a reclass, right? Mm-hmm. It's not always the best path for these guys to play early. What do you think about that quarterback situation there in Boulder?
And you're forgetting one of your favorites, DJ Lagway.
That's right.
Saved somebody's life last year. Extended, everybody down in Florida got an extension. But when you look at young guys like that come in that can give you an impact, as long as you have a veteran quarterback that's ahead of them, that they don't have to have that much pressure, that you can ease them in to the game, just like they did with DJ Lagway last year in Florida, and just say, you know what, we're going to give you a package of 10 to 15 plays that you're going to play every game until we figure out to the 4th game that either you're ready or you're not ready for a college season where we're not going to burn your red shirt. So to me, it's always a good thing when you can always keep that young player engaged and not just allow him to know the entire playbook, which can just get too much for him, and just give him a package to work his way in. And then you can truly see his impact on the team.
Is it enough nowadays? The NIL, these guys got to play early. I would assume Colorado, Deion Sanders is going to be in a situation where they're going to have to find some time for Julian Lewis to play. On the other hand, I look at Cormani McLean. They didn't sugarcoat things with him at all, right? So Deion Sanders wants to run his program a certain way. The final question here, the win total, where do you kind of land on Colorado next year?
I'm going to land on a 7-win season, which is not bad because I just heard expectation is bowl games. A few years ago, they only had, 1 or 2 wins. So I think if they figure out how to be in a 7 to 8 win category, just knowing that they're mending and waiting time for Juju to come along and be the guy, I think that'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah, 7 to 9. I think that's kind of where I land. High side, 9 games with a bowl victory as well, 7 games as well. So you look at Colorado; they've come a long way in a short amount of time. The other thing, Pat Shurmur, Robert Livingston. We didn't get to talk about him. We were supposed to talk about him in that segment. He's got a lot of buzz, man. They've done a great job with their coordinators.
Listen, Coach Livingston, one of the most underrated hires of last year. We sat down and talked about it off camera, Coop. The NFL wanted him back. but he said, no, I'm going to stay in Boulder. And the impact that he had on that defense, we heard about the sack total, but just the pressure. And when you talked about Colorado last year, you weren't just talking about the offensive game plan. You were talking about their defense creating pressure and turnovers. Awesome hire.
Yeah, continuity goes a long way, too. Look for them to take another step in 2025.